Yes, it's Thursday, so that means the Guardians get the juicy TWID. Bungie's weekly update is dropping for the first time since the launch of Act 2. Been quite a lot of content dropping the game this week. Naturally, Bungie recap on some of the stuff in the TWID. There are some other useful insights though, and additionally we'll round up bug fixes, warnings and things to be aware of, as well as the blog today. So if you guys enjoyed the news video, a rating really does help us out on the channel. Otherwise, let's get into it. First up, some honourable mentions from the community right here. Kiss of the Hell pointed out that double perk Guardian Games weapons no longer drop masterwork, so as they say, be careful what you dismantle. It's still possible to get the double perk weapons. They have a higher drop chance on the expert version of the new activity, but given that they don't have the yellow border and things, obviously you might not always check, so worth a look before you dismantle. That's a good shout, that one. Also, don't dismantle your Barrow Dyad. Hungry Noodle on Reddit pointed out, if you do, it won't allow you to add the default perk, Taken Divergence, at the crafting table in order to slot the new catalyst, or indeed other future upgrades. So if you plan on getting the catalyst and upgrading it, try and keep the one you've got and go from there. Otherwise, Bungie have resolved an issue preventing some players from accessing Sundered Doctrine, Salvation's Edge, and Excision. That came up after the reset the other day, so if you've been wanting to run them, it should now be possible. Plus, the Destiny 2 team said they identified an issue where 3v3 solo versus fire team loss protection can sometimes be affected by a networking condition, causing it to fail. So to better protect solo players until resolved, they'll be walking back this week's change, which allowed 2-player fire teams to match against 3-player fire teams without delay. And the loss protection as it currently functions will remain enabled and will be attempting a fix. And once we've verified that the fix has taken effect, we'll re-enable the matchmaking changes. Hopefully, as they indicated, that will be fixed today. Lastly though, they're investigating an issue where players can be encounter soft locked within the Court of Blades activity when completing encounters as the countdown timer hits 0. And they say players will have to manually leave the activity if they encounter that, so a bit annoying, just one worth knowing about, and hopefully it will be fixed soon. Next up though, we get into the TWID, and Bungie actually touched on the Rite of the Nine glitch earlier on in the week, so they say Tuesday was full of surprise. Act 2 shipped with new activities, rewards, story content, as well as Guardian games, but somehow the Nine decided to throw a wrench in the machine with an early preview for Rite of the Nine. As for how this happened, we'll keep it short and sweet. Some of the earliest iterations of Rite of the Nine activities snuck their way into update 8.2.5, and most of what was seen was placeholder. Weapon rewards all featured temporary art and fake perk rolls. The user interface is not what we're planning to ship, and difficulty options don't have the tuning passes that we'd planned for Explorer, Eternity, and Ultimatum modes. So, while this was a fun moment for players to explore what we're planning, we're very much looking forward to everyone getting their hands on the finished activities. We hope you enjoyed this unplanned surprise, even if it doesn't represent the whole package. And they say pardon our dust. As a final note though, for all of you who got your hands on weapon rewards early, we won't be removing them from your inventory. When Rite of the Nine ships, perk rolls will be updated across the board to prevent some rule-breaking combinations, such as incandescent or chill clip on a void shotgun, for example, but you'll still retain these rewards on launch day. So they say stay tuned for future updates on the actual Rite of the Nine launch date. And of course it was bizarre, for sure. It gets also interesting that players will be able to keep these strange, unfinished weapons in some capacity. It sounds like particular perk rolls will be essentially removed, but for the moment there'll be some very weird, rare weapons, I guess, that some players were able to pick up on Tuesday if you were around while that glitch was active. The wording though, where they say retain the weapons on launch day, kind of makes me wonder if they will ultimately be removed a bit further down the line. But anyway, that's the update on that front. Otherwise, a codenamed Frontiers bit of info here. They say, we want to share some news today about an update coming to the PC version of Destiny 2 when Frontiers launches later this year. And so they're planning to remove the exclusive full screen option in favor of windowed full screen, which will be renamed to full screen when Frontiers drops. The windowed and borderless windowed options will stay as they are right now, but in terms of the reason for the change, they say, our technology partners recommend this update as it offers performance that is as good, if not better, than traditional exclusive full screen options. It also allows for faster alt-tab switching, which we know is very important for many Destiny players that use third-party tools and websites, and a better integration with modern display features. So this way we can simplify development and focus on fixes and improvements that matter most. The new full-screen mode will handle resolution changes identically to how the current one does, and once the update is live, players that were using either exclusive full screen or windowed full screen will switch to the new setting automatically. So just something to be aware of. I suppose for most players it won't be a massive deal, but again, if it may affect you, keep it locked in the memory bank as we approach Frontiers. Otherwise, as we've mentioned, we're not entirely sure when that will be just yet. Otherwise, Bungie do some recaps for Act 2 of Heresy, as predicted. They also say there's a new catalyst for Baradiad, so it's the perfect time to go back to the exotic mission, if you haven't, and then unfold more of the forbidden secrets kept in the Dreadnought. Worth a quick mention, that's interesting wording, given that if you already had the gun before Act 2, we haven't actually had to play the exotic mission again yet, unless there's something in there that we're missing, so maybe some folks will go hunting for that now, as otherwise, the high impact reserves catalyst does drop when you complete Court of Blades with Baradiad equipped. Otherwise, they point out that Guardian Games is also live, the Lotus Eater is dropping from Grandmasters, and otherwise, Act 3 will be here in less than 3 weeks, where we'll get a new heavy metal PvP game mode, and after that, it'll be time for Rite of the Nine, which again, Bungie will announce more details about in the future. Next up though, they say, for Guardian Games, in order for everyone to show how proud they are of being a hunter, warlock or titan, wearing the Guardian Games cloak, bond or mark is a requirement for the next 3 weeks, but it also means that not using your trusty Artifice class item that adds the right number of extra points for that slot. So good news, when the next update drops on Tuesday at Reset next week, we'll be upgrading everyone's Guardian Games class items to Artifice armor. In other words, that'll mean players have the extra slot to increase the stat of choice by 3 points, and defeating the other 2 classes will remain the only objective, so that will be applied to all of them. I thought they were dropping as Artifice anyway, but I guess for any that aren't, that will no longer be the case as of Tuesday. Otherwise, as we did briefly discuss yesterday, Bungie plan to address snap skating on Warlocks, as it's an unintentional movement technique to give players some great advantages in map control and general movement during combat. So in a future patch, they plan to address this. Otherwise, they point out that the closing time perk grants some great stats when your magazine is low, but as players spawn in with low special ammo for now, these stat buffs are almost always on in the Crucible, making various weapons perform a bit too well in 1v1 combat. So that's another component they plan to tune, specifically for special weapons, again in a future update. They'll also be taking further passes at hipfire exotics, so Tommy's Matchbook will be getting some tuning similar to what they did with Dead Man's Tale and The Last Word. That will be in update 8251, so it should be next week. But alongside that, they'll be re-enabling Dead Man's Tale and The Last Word to interact with Radiant Dance Machines in a much more limited set of buffs that do not increase range, but still provide them with some amount of increased accuracy. So that treatment will essentially apply to Tommy's Matchbook as well. In addition though, there'll be more tuning for Radiant Dance Machines next Tuesday, and they'll be normalizing the precision angle threshold bonus provided by the accuracy buff between controller and mouse and keyboard when using Radiant Dance Machines. And they've essentially said the increased usage for Radiant Dance Machines has not been unilateral, and they see nearly 3 times the adoption on mouse and keyboard compared to controller, so they will once again reduce the ease of getting critical hits when hip firing on a mouse and keyboard when paired with some of the weapons that they have mentioned. So that is coming next Tuesday, and we'll probably get some other fixes and minor updates in the patch there as well, so I'll keep you posted. Otherwise, Bungie recognised that Guardian Games Rushdown and the completion chest does not always have a waypoint indicator on its location, and that 4 daily bounties only show the progress bar for 1 element, although it will not affect progress. This is for Guardian Games specifically. Also, that the weekly milestone quest is partially cut off when viewed on the details screen, and that Taking Flight is the name of the new holochip and exotic ship, and that the ship will be renamed in a future update, which of course will be vitally important. Another thing in the TWID, but the Bungie Foundation campaign will be supporting Women in Games International in honor of Women's History Month, and anyone who makes a $10 donation via the Bungie Foundation will unlock the new emblem that we can see on screen. So that's a pretty cool one, and if you want details about that, you can find it in the TWID linked below. For now though guys, that is what we have to speak about today, so I hope you found the video useful. If you have, a rating below really helps us on the channel. Also be sure to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with more content, but otherwise thanks for watching and I hope you guys have an awesome day.